With the 8 species of highly venomous snakes and a mostly rural human population, Eswatini faces a serious shortage of antivenom, the living medicine needed to treat snake bite victims.
Introducing the Light Up Nigeria program, the Vice President Kashim Shettima promises that the federal government will address the power supply needs in the southeast region. Hello, and thanks for tuning into the show that goes around the continent to bring you stories near and far. I'm Joke Rogers at Channels Television here in Lagos, and I'm joined by Vincent McCory from the Voice of America in Washington, D.C.
Thanks, I'm Vincent McCory at the Voice of America. Happy to be with you again for another edition of Africa 54. Let's start off with the latest from Nigeria. Joke Rogers in Lagos brings you that story.
The federal government has reiterated its commitment to address the incessant epileptic power supply in the southeast region to improve the economy and livelihoods of the people. The Vice President Kashim Shettima gave the government's position at the launch of the Light Up Nigeria program for the Southeast and Business Roundtable held at the Old Governor's Lodge in Enugu, the Enugu state capital.
Let's be seated, please.
8th the turn of the Southeast for the Light Up Nigeria project aimed at improving power supply across the country. The governors of the Southeast, members of the business community and other stakeholders are here at the Old Government Lodge in Enugu to witness the landmark event.
I understand in all the 36 states of the Federation, Anambra State is one that is doing free education.
The host governor welcomes the guests, highlighting the importance of the initiative to the Southeast economy and livelihood of the people.
This project is of critical importance since it deals with the power sector, which I believe is pivotal to economic growth. Indeed, if we fixed power, a lot of other sectors would have fallen into place.
His counterparts in the region, one after the other, address the audience, challenging all stakeholders to do their part in the Light Up Nigeria project in the Southeast.
Let's move from lamentations to solutions now. And I want to believe that this particular session, at the end of it, will come out with actionable, executable agenda to provide power to our people.
I want to urge you, Mr. Vice President, and the stakeholders in this power industry to believe in implementing whatever thing we say today, rather than coming here to speak English, and at the end of the day, we achieve nothing.
There is a need for a comprehensive audit of decisions taken in the past, where we have gotten it right and where we didn't get it right, so that we will start from the known to the unknown.
And for the Minister of Power, the issue of right-of-way for power infrastructure is key, especially regarding payment of compensation.
The Light Up Southeast will attract financing for required infrastructure upgrades, and we use metering and related technology to achieve payment assurance. We're going to do things differently here. We will prove to the investors that if you put your money in this project, you are going to get your money back. That investment recovery assurance is required. And the banks too will be willing, because we're going to use technology, especially smart meters, to ensure that we collect electricity bills.
The Light Up Nigeria initiative is started to be dear to the President Bola Tinubu's administration, and the Vice President gives assurances of that commitment.
The Light Up Nigeria project powers the hope of our industrialists and serves as a long-awaited solution to the power supply deficit that has undermined our economy over the past decades. So this intervention isn't a ribbon-cutting charade. This is a calculated endeavor to re-engineer our economy, and whatever we design to oil the wheels of our industries is futile unless we stabilize the Nigerian electricity supply industry.
One after the other, members of the business community make their requests and recommendations regarding the initiative to address the issue of epileptic power supply in the Southeast region.
Joining us to discuss the power supply in the Southeast is the Commissioner for Power, Abia State, Ikechukwu Monday. A pleasure having you today on the program.
Thank you very much. Good afternoon, everyone. Good afternoon to Abians and good afternoon to Nigerians.
Right, so it's a laudable project, the Light of Nigeria. And what do you make of this launch? Is to serve not just Abia State, but the entire Southeast region. What do you make by this? Do you think it will serve the desired purpose by making epileptic power supply a thing of the past in the region?
Oh, thank you very much for that question. First, I will start to say the Southeast is known for our ability to engage in manufacturing and commerce. So that is what we are blessed with. We are very talented people. And if you want to drive industrialization, not just in the Southeast, also in Nigeria, you cannot do it without power. And this has already affected the economy of Nigeria and also the economy of Southeast, considering the state of epileptic power supply in the region. So this is a good step in the right direction, that the Southeast is coming together to look at how can we light up the Southeast. We have a lot of industrial clusters in the Southeast, in Nnewi, in Aba, in Onitsha, and other parts of the Southeast. So having such a program that can give power at a reliable source of power and also at a reasonable price, we explore and energize and ignite the economy of the Southeast. So to answer your question, yes, it's a good step in the right direction.
Right, and what's the symbolism, should I say, or significance of it being launched right there in Aba? Just last Monday, with something related to this, what was launched in Enugu. Also, that same Monday, coincidentally, we launched the Aba Integrated Power Project, which is a power project that has the geometric power generation plant and the Aba Power Distribution Company. This is an embedded power plant that is situated in Osisioma in Abia State. And the uniqueness of this is that it will boost reliable energy supply to Aba and environs. And when I mean environs, 9 local governments in Abia State. So imagine having a reliable power supply to this location, what it will do to the economy. So it's good. And this also with the light up Southeast, it goes pari passer. So like I said, it will really, the significant importance of this is to provide a reliable power supply to ignite the economy of the Southeast and Abia State in particular. And looking at the drive and the good leadership of His Excellency, Dr. Alex Oti, to form and drive the new Abia, where Abia will be the shining star of Nigeria as the #1 state in the country. So we are encouraging people to come back because we have a new Abia and we are open for investment and collaboration as a government as well. Right, and one of the things that's been championed by several governments, including the past President Muhammadu Buhari, and of course the present administration of Bola Tinubu, is that power generation and distribution should be taken up by the different regions so that it can be decentralized to a certain extent. How are the governors in the Southeast, how are they coming together to ensure that this is an actual reality, not just the launch in one day and then it seems as if people go to sleep and they don't bother about it again? So how are they coming together to ensure that the entire Southeast benefits from all these projects?
we are excited with removing electricity power supply in terms of generation, distribution, transmission from the exclusive list, which now gives the state the framework to be able to, think and come up with initiatives to improve power supply in their locality. And this also spreads to regions. So what does this do for the Southeast? It opens up the opportunity for states in the Southeast to collaborate. We can decide as a Southeast geopolitical region to have our own Southeastern grid. If we don't want to, we can produce enough energy supply or power supply that we can also sell to other regions. Considering that we are rich in oil and gas and other sources of energy that can produce power, sources of fuel to produce electricity. So Southeastern governors are collaborating to make sure this is a success. I remember we visiting the Honorable Minister of Power with my governor and a senator from Imo State to discuss on how we can wheel in enough power to complete the transmission projects that moves power from Umuahia all the way to Okigwe. So that's a collaboration. Okigwe is in Imo State and Umuahia is in Abia State. So states in the Southeast must collaborate, and they are collaborating. And this is the only way we can improve the economy of the geopolitical region.
So how soon do you think the 24-hour power supply promised to some major communities in Abia State will manifest?
Okay, power, one thing people need to understand with power is that it's not something you just close your eyes and you have it. It's a process and it takes some time. But if you put on the right machinery, make deliberate actions and follow it up, and obviously you need to inject capital. It is capital intensive to make sure that if you build new power plants, those power plants are well maintained. The distribution network, you inject funds to make sure the infrastructure, you continue to improve it. And once you keep making these steps, for sure, 24 hours, 7 days a week is something that is close to be achieved. For Abia State, we expect with the geometric power plant coming online, for Aba at least, very soon we see a massive improvement in the power supply. And from there, it can also radiate to other parts of the state.
Right. Commissioner for Power, Abia State, Ikechukwu Monday, a pleasure having you on the program today.
Thank you very much. And thank you, Nigerians. Thank you, Abians. Keep faith in the new government in Abia State. It's a transformative government. We are working hard to make sure we provide solutions and better welfare to our people. Thank you, and God bless you all.
A surge in the number of migrants making the treacherous journey from West Africa to Spain's Canary Islands is straining local authorities. Human rights groups say many child migrants are being wrongly classified as adults by Spanish police, putting them at increased risk. Henry Ridgewell reports.
Musa Kamara is 15 years old. He was orphaned following a coup in his home country of Guinea. He chose to escape, spending 11 days at sea in a wooden boat on the treacherous journey from Senegal to the Spanish island of Tenerife, along with 240 other migrants. For half that time, he had no food or water. 20 people died in the crossing. When he arrived on October 27th, Spanish authorities classified Kamara and his friend as adults rather than children.
At the processing center, we said we were 15 years old, but they didn't write that. They took us as if we were adults. But we are children. We're children. They sent us here. They brought our papers. They betrayed us.
Police sent the two boys to an old military base in Tenerife's mountains, where around 2,000 adult migrants await transfers to mainland Spain. Amnesty International found that 12 of 29 migrants they interviewed on the islands were children who had been incorrectly classified as adults.
We were talking with one girl. She was 17 and she was detained for 3 days with men and women in a place without any oversight by the authorities. She was sleeping on the floor.
A bone test is required to prove a migrant's age, but these can take months. Child migrants are given extra support to find residency and education until they turn 18. But if they are classed as adults, they receive little government help. Amnesty says treating child migrants as adults is illegal under Spanish law, and it subjects them to injustices.
If they are treated as adults, they can be expelled to their countries of origin.
So far this year, more than 32,000 migrants have arrived on the Canary Islands from West Africa, the highest since 2006. Local authorities say the Spanish government isn't doing enough to help.
They have left us with 4,700 minors, with NGOs and resources saturated, with difficulties because the screening of who is a minor and who is not a minor is not being done. It is taking at least 3-4 months, and you have adults in centers for minors and minors in centers for adults. So we have this difficulty.
Amnesty International is calling on Spain and the European Union to make sure that child migrants are properly screened and to provide safer routes for refugees. The Spanish government said it was conducting dozens of assessments on cases of suspected minors being housed at adult migrant camps. Henry Ridgewell, VOA News, London.
It's time now for a short break. As we do, we remind you to visit our website, channelstv.com, for news and programming around the clock. You can also find us at youtube.com/channelsweb. And still to come, with over 500,000 people crossing the border into Renk in South Sudan, the International Organization for Migration sends aid through onward transport assistance. Nigeria has joined the international community to celebrate this year's International Mother Language Day with a call on the federal government to ensure the drafting of indigenous languages in school curriculums. The inclusion, according to experts who were speaking at an event organized to mark the day in Abuja, will help the nation's languages from going into extinction.
These experts are converging on this hall to celebrate this year's International Mother Language Day. The day is observed globally every year on February 21st to recognize and promote linguistic and cultural diversity and multilingualism. Speakers bear their minds on the state of mother tongue language in Nigeria as a tool which fosters tolerance and respect.
The dividends can benefit immensely. It can bring about tremendous impetus into the GDP. It can impact the educational enlightenment to create diverse fields like literary fields, drama fields, cultural fields in their own language.
Languages are God's gifts to humanity. So no language was a mistake. Every language has purpose. And languages have ideas, germ concepts in them that, if harnessed, could make the world a better place for everybody.
Nigeria, as a multilingual nation, has major and minor languages intertwined by dialects. According to studies by the United Nations Educational, Scientific and Cultural Organization, 29 Nigerian minor languages have become extinct, while another 29 minor languages are in the danger of extinction.
When you talk about languages going into extinction, everybody from Nigeria feels that way. But when we move to our villages, you realize that no other language exists there except the mother tongue.
The number of languages that are extinct are less than the number of languages that are still being spoken, which is encouraging, but it's not the best because most of our languages aren't being used in day-to-day, you know, whether it's in government or it's usually restricted to just kind of surface level communication. But when it comes to, let's say, sciences or being able to actually deploy the language in a work setting professionally, you don't really see that.
Languages play a central role in preserving cultural heritage and peace building. The expectation here is that the relevant authorities will consider a review of basic education curriculum to promote indigenous languages. Sarah Chimogu, Channels Television News.
Welcome back to Africa 54. I'm Vincent McCory in Washington. The southern African nation of Eswatini has 8 species of highly venomous snakes and a mostly rural population of 1.2 million people. And when these reptiles bite people, it can be deadly, especially when antivenom is scarce. Viewers Nokumanya Musi has this report from Manzini.
It's a call no parent wants to receive. Gosingpile Tabedze was at work when he received the news that his 14-year-old son, Cebole Nkosi, had been bitten by a snake.
I got there to find him in bad shape. At the time, we had no idea that he could have been bitten by a black mamba. On the way, the road was bad. I could see the very life from my son slipping away. I couldn't help but break down.
His son was saved thanks to the availability of antivenom for the bite. But if it hadn't been for the Luke Commission, a faith-based healthcare provider, things might have turned out differently. Each vial costs as much as $120, a price Tabedze could never afford. Eswatini sees about 200 to 400 venomous snake bites a year, according to the Eswatini Antivenom Foundation. There are 8 species of potentially deadly venomous snakes in this country. Species like the puff adder, Mozambique spitting cobra, and the much feared black mamba are responsible for most of the serious snakebite cases. According to the World Health Organization, antivenom is the treatment for snake bites, but there is a worldwide shortage because it is expensive and difficult to produce. And that's where the Luke Commission comes in, says Echo Vanderval, co-founder of the group that brings free health care to Eswatini's rural population.
In the past year, we've admitted over 250 snakebite patients, and we've not had one person die or one loss of limb in the last year. So we're so grateful for that.
The Eswatini Antivenom Foundation can be inundated with up to 400 calls during the snakebite season, the hot months of August and September. The victims are transported, admitted for observation, and treated with antivenom if necessary, says founder Tia Lechka Kuhn.
There's a significant shortage. There has been for about 3 years now. That we have been fighting to try and save lives with as little as 100 vials of antivenom per season.
Zakele Hlope is a volunteer at the Eswatini Antivenom Foundation.
The people who are out there in the communities, some of them, they are not well versed about snakes. They kill the snakes, and they still have traditional beliefs that when you are bitten by a snake, you need to have something to drink, a concoction, or you have to have a certain powder, which also contributes to the increase of the number of deaths due to snake bite.
Government officials in Eswatini say at least 6 people have died of snake bites so far this year, and 80 to 100,000 die worldwide each year, according to the World Health Organization. Healthcare experts say lives will continue to be lost if governments don't address the antivenom shortage. Nogukanya Musi, VOA News, Manzini, Eswatini.
Hundreds of thousands of people displaced by the war in Sudan are being assisted in South Sudan by the International Organization for Migration, the IOM. Over 500,000 people have crossed the border into Renk in South Sudan and are being assisted by the IOM through onward transport assistance.
Most of those arriving are originally South Sudanese who had been living in Sudan when the violence started. The International Organization of Migration has assisted over 161,000 to return to their villages and communities of origin or reach other places of safety.
Well, the conditions here are extremely harsh. There's hardly any water, any food, any sanitation, any security, any shelter. It's also one of the most remote areas in the country. Thousands of people have crossed the border just behind me from Sudan. Many of them are vulnerable, many of them are traumatized. We've spoken to women, we've spoken to children and the elderly who fled the terrible violence and have spent weeks, in some cases months, trying to reach this border, trying to cross into South Sudan to reach safety.
The onward transport assistance being provided is one of the largest and most complex transport operations in IOM's history.
What IOM and other UN agencies don't want is for refugee camps to spring up in this location because it is so remote. There is no infrastructure, there are no hospitals, there are no medical facilities, there are no resources of any kind for those vulnerable arrivals to tap into. This onward transport assistance is absolutely critical to avoiding the situation I'm describing, and it has involved IOM putting on over 1,200 flights away from Rank into Malakal, the capital of Upper Nile State. It's also involved sea transportation.
Over 135,000 arrivals have been assisted with boat transport. More than 1,200 flights have been organized, and over 26,000 people have been moved by road. But an estimated 420,000 people are expected to arrive in South Sudan from Sudan this year. $32 million will be needed to provide onward transport assistance for 150,000. But IOM says a major cash crunch is looming, which will affect this critical and much-needed assistance for those arriving.
Well, and that's our show for today. You can find all the continent's top news and world news online at voaafrica.com. Check it out. I'm Vincent McCory in Washington. Channels Television has our last word.
We look forward to bringing you another show next week. To remember that channelstv.com is your source for news and other programming. I'm Joke Rogers. Thanks for watching and goodbye.